My entitled sister kicked me out of our parents' house, so I made sure she'd regret it when the inheritance came. Growing up, my sister Anna was the golden child, the type of person everyone adored until you actually had to live with her. She was 3 years older than me, prettier, louder, and had this natural way of convincing people she was right even when she was absolutely full of it. I used to think our parents saw through her act, but I learned quickly that charm beats truth every time. When our mom got sick, I was the one who took care of her, hospital visits, medicine runs, sleepless nights. Anna would show up once a week with flowers, snap a photo for social media, and call it support. I didn't mind at first. I wasn't doing it for praise. I just loved Mom. After Mom passed, everything changed. Dad took it the hardest. He stopped cooking, stopped leaving the house, stopped living. I stayed to help him, not out of obligation, but because he was all I had left. Anna moved in temporarily to help, but immediately acted like she owned the place. She started rearranging furniture, complaining about the decor, and talking about renovations as if Dad's home was her personal project. I ignored it, thinking grief made her restless. But a month later, Dad had a heart attack. He didn't make it. At the funeral, Anna cried louder than anyone, hugging people like she was the hero of a tragedy. Then, a week later, she told me I had 2 weeks to move out. Dad would have wanted me to take care of the house, she said, pretending her eyes weren't cold. I was stunned. She knew I had nowhere else to go, my job barely covered rent, and the housing market was a nightmare. But she didn't care. "You've been freeloading for years," she said. Freeloading. The same word she used when I took care of our dying mother while she was posting "Family Comes First" online. So I packed. I left the house with a suitcase, a few old photos, and every ounce of dignity I had left. She stood by the door, smirking, telling me she'd let me visit sometimes. That was the moment something in me went quiet, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. For the next few years, I rebuilt my life from scratch. I rented a small apartment, worked late nights, and eventually landed a stable job in accounting. I didn't talk to Anna much. She was too busy flaunting her dream home online. Every photo of her standing in front of our parents' house made my stomach twist. She renovated it just like she said she would: new paint, new furniture, even a new fence. She called it her forever home. What she didn't know was that Dad had made a private appointment with a lawyer before he passed. A few months after his death, I got a letter from that lawyer asking to meet. Apparently, Dad had updated his will without telling anyone. I didn't even open it right away. I wasn't expecting much. But when I did, my hands shook. Dad had left everything: the house, the savings, the land, to me. He'd written a note, saying, "For the one who never left." I almost couldn't believe it. Anna had kicked me out of a house that was never hers to begin with. But here's the thing, I didn't say a word. Not yet. I wanted her to have her peace, her illusion of control. I let her live there, pay the taxes, post her little influencer photos. Every time I saw her flaunt her home, I felt a small flicker of satisfaction. I knew the truth would come, I just didn't know when. That day came 5 years later. I got a call from the property manager who handled the taxes, saying there was an issue: overdue payments, legal ownership verification, standard stuff. I told him to send the notice to Anna. 2 days later, she called me, furious. "Why is your name on the deed?" she demanded. I told her to check the will. She went silent. Then she screamed, "You knew." I told her calmly, "Of course I knew. I just wanted to see how long you'd pretend it was yours." She begged at first. Said we could share it. Then she turned cruel, said I'd manipulated Dad, that I didn't deserve anything. But I didn't argue. I'd learned something over the years: silence drives people like Anna insane. I let her rant until she hung up. A week later, she called again, crying. The house had become too expensive to maintain. She couldn't afford the taxes, the repairs, the mortgage on her new car, the vacations. Everything was crumbling. I told her she had 2 options: sell the house and split the profit, which I didn't legally have to do, or move out, and I'd take it over. She screamed, cursed, called me a traitor. Then she hung up. A month later, I got a text: "I'm leaving. Enjoy the house, you snake." When I walked through the front door again, the smell of fresh paint mixed with old memories. I stood in the living room where Mom used to sit, where Dad used to nap, where Anna once told me I didn't belong. Now it was mine again. Not because I wanted revenge, though it did taste sweet, but because justice has a quiet, satisfying rhythm. Sometimes I still think about her. She lives in a small apartment now, posting motivational quotes about fake family and starting over. I don't comment. I don't need to. Every time she sees the house on Google Maps with my name on it, that's answer enough. So maybe I was petty. Maybe I could have told her sooner. But she taught me something important. When someone throws you out of what's yours, don't fight to get back in, wait until they're standing outside instead. My mom always made me feel like a failure, so when she begged me for help years later, I gave her exactly what she gave me. My mother was the kind of woman who believed love should be earned, not given. When I was a kid, I thought that was normal, that affection was some kind of prize for doing everything right. She'd smile when I brought home good grades, but if I slipped even slightly, she'd say things like, "You could have done better," or "Why can't you be more like your cousin?" Every achievement felt half-finished, every compliment loaded. I spent my whole life trying to be enough for her, only to realize she enjoyed watching me try and fail. When I got into college, she didn't say congratulations. She asked how much it would cost her. When I graduated, she said, "You should have gone for something practical." When I got my first job, she said, "That's it." And when I finally told her I was moving out, she said, "Good. Maybe you'll finally grow up." I spent years trying to cut her voice out of my head. Therapy helped, time helped, distance helped. I built a life she'd never understand, one that didn't revolve around her judgment. I got married, bought a small house, and eventually started my own business. For the first time, I was proud of myself. Not because she said I should be, but because I finally believed it. Then one night, out of nowhere, she called. I hadn't heard her voice in almost 5 years. She sounded smaller, quieter, like the world had taken something from her. She told me she'd lost her job, that her health wasn't great, that her retirement savings had run dry. She said she needed help, a place to stay for a while. I should have felt compassion. I should have been the bigger person. But all I felt was that old, familiar ache, the one that whispered, "You're never enough." Still, I told her she could stay. Because no matter how much I tried to hate her, part of me still wanted her approval. I just didn't realize how fast old wounds reopen when the person who made them moves back in. The first week was civil enough. She acted like nothing had ever happened, like we were just a normal mother and child catching up after years apart. But it didn't take long for her to fall back into old habits. She started criticizing everything, my furniture, my wife, my job. "You're still doing that little business thing," she'd sneer, glancing at my laptop. "I thought you'd have something real by now." My wife tried to be patient, but I saw the strain. Mom would make passive-aggressive comments about her cooking, her clothes, even the way she laughed. "You're too loud," she'd say, or "That's not how a lady behaves." One night, my wife came into our room and whispered, "I can't live like this." I told her it was temporary. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Then came the money requests. "Just a little loan until I get back on my feet." Then another. And another. Each time, I gave in. Not because I believed her, but because I couldn't bear the guilt she wrapped around every sentence. "After everything I did for you," she'd say, "you can't even help your own mother?" One day, I came home early and overheard her on the phone with one of her friends. "He thinks he's successful," she laughed. "But he's still the same little boy begging for my approval." Pathetic, really. I stood in the hallway, my hands shaking. That was the moment something inside me broke for good. I realized she didn't need my help, she needed control. And for the first time in my life, I decided not to give it to her. A week later, she asked me to co-sign a loan so she could start fresh. I told her no. Calmly, firmly, without apology. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "You ungrateful child," she hissed. "After all I've done for you." I smiled and said, "Exactly." That night, I told her she needed to find somewhere else to stay. She laughed like I was joking until I handed her a printed list of nearby rentals. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "You owe me." I told her that if she truly believed that, she should think of this as me finally paying my debt, the dead of years of silence, pain, and disappointment. She moved out 2 weeks later. My wife helped her pack. I didn't say goodbye. A few days after she left, she sent a text that said, "You'll regret this when I'm gone." I didn't reply. I just sat on the porch, breathing in the quiet, the kind of peace that comes when you finally choose yourself over the person who taught you not to. It's been 3 years since then. She lives in a small apartment now, occasionally posting cryptic Facebook quotes about selfish children. I see them sometimes, and I don't feel anger anymore, just relief. Because for once, I'm not the failure she made me out to be. I'm just someone who finally stopped auditioning for love. So maybe I was cruel. Maybe I should have helped her more. But after a lifetime of giving everything to a woman who never gave anything back, I think I finally learned what she never could. Love isn't about debt, it's about choice. And I finally chose me. My entitled coworker kept stealing credit for my projects, so I let her present one that was designed to fail. There's a special kind of rage that comes from watching someone smile in your face while stabbing you in the back. For me, that someone was Claire, the kind of coworker who thrives in office politics, who knows exactly when to nod, when to compliment, and when to accidentally take credit for someone else's work. She joined our team 2 years ago, all charm and perfume and girl boss energy. Everyone loved her instantly, management especially. She was always volunteering for new projects, but somehow the actual work always landed on my desk. I was the quiet one in the office. I didn't network or gossip. I just did my job and did it well. Claire noticed that fast. She'd hover around my desk, asking innocent questions about my progress. Then, in meetings, she'd repeat my ideas as if they were her own, and people listened. At first, I thought maybe I was being paranoid. But then came the first real theft. I spent weeks designing a client proposal, data analysis, visuals, cost projections, everything. Claire was supposed to co-present with me, but the morning of the meeting, she told me our manager wanted her to handle it alone because too many presenters can confuse the client. I believed her. I let her go ahead. Later that day, I got an email from our manager saying, "Fantastic work, Claire. You've got real leadership potential." My name wasn't mentioned once. She didn't even try to hide her grin when I congratulated her. "It's a team effort," she said sweetly. But there was no team. Just her taking bows for my performance. After that, it became routine. She'd ask for help, take my work, then parade it as her own. I tried going to HR once, but they brushed it off, said it was miscommunication. So I stopped complaining. But I didn't stop watching. And slowly, a plan started forming. When our company announced a major project, one that could lead to a big promotion, Claire jumped at it. Of course, she insisted we partner again. "We make such a great team," she said, like she hadn't been feeding off my effort for months. I smiled and agreed. That was her first mistake. I designed a project that looked brilliant on the surface, perfect slides, flawless presentation, impressive stats. But buried deep inside were intentional errors. Not obvious ones. Just subtle enough that only someone who truly understood the data would notice and fix them. A few wrong figures, misaligned references, a model that would crash under live demo conditions. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to make her look unprepared in front of the executives. She didn't even bother to review the details. She just smiled, thanked me for my help, and submitted it as her own. The day of the presentation, I sat quietly in the back of the conference room, pretending to take notes. Claire walked in confident, heels clicking like gunshots, lipstick perfect. She started the pitch, confident, smooth, glowing. For about 5 minutes, it went perfectly. Then the cracks started showing. The live chart glitched. The budget projections didn't add up. The numbers contradicted themselves. You could see the panic spread across her face as questions started flying. "Can you explain this data variance? Why do these totals not match?" She stammered, flipped through slides, blamed formatting issues. But the execs weren't buying it. I watched her crumble in real time, that confident grin melting into silence. When it was over, our manager turned to me and said, "Can you review this, see where things went wrong?" I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Of course, I said softly. After the meeting, Claire cornered me in the hallway, eyes blazing. You set me up, she hissed. I tilted my head. Set you up? You mean the project you submitted? Her jaw clenched. You knew there were mistakes. I shrugged. Maybe if you'd done your own work, you would have caught them. She didn't have a comeback. She just stared at me, this mix of shock and fury, and walked away. The next day, HR called her in for performance review. A week later, she was transferred to a different department, a quiet demotion disguised as a better fit. I didn't celebrate. I didn't brag. I just kept doing my job. A few colleagues whispered that Claire had been unlucky. Others suspected more. But no one asked questions. Months later, I got promoted to lead analyst, the position Claire had been chasing since day one. When my manager congratulated me, he said, "You've been underappreciated for too long." I smiled and thanked him. Sometimes I still think about that day in the conference room, the flicker of panic in her eyes when she realized her charm couldn't save her. I don't regret what I did. Maybe it was petty. Maybe it was cruel. But sometimes, the only way to teach a thief a lesson is to let them steal something that burns when they touch it. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed the story. See you in the next one.